Chapter 4. Inside the Spire, in corridors of a brilliant white, Senator Leica walked hesitantly. Her skin was the same luminous green as her kin, but her face was more angular, and her white hair was tied back in a bun. She wore a red gown, which was not meant for fancy parties, but for political matters. She reached for a door and stopped for a moment. The occupant of this room made her nervous. The visitor from Earth was the first alien she had encountered, and whilst he was polite enough, something about him made her wary. She opened the door and entered. A constant bleeping sound monitored and recorded the heart rate of the visitor. He lay in a bed, his grey eyes on hers as she approached.
"Senator Leica,"
the visitor, known to his people as Silas Henshaw, said in a gravelly voice.
"I'm honored to remake your acquaintance."
"Mr. Henshaw," Leica started nervously.
"Silas, please. No need to stand on ceremony. What brings you here?"
Silas asked. There was a smile playing at the end of his lips, as if he already knew the answer to his question. Leica licked her lips nervously. "Senator Tycho is dead," she declared. She noted angrily that Silas didn't even pretend to be shocked.
"That is unfortunate,"
Silas said coldly.
"So you were called in to clean up the mess."
"Aren't you interested at all in how he died?" Leica prodded. Silas shrugged, sitting up in bed, the constant beeping remaining steady.
"I presume I was pursued to this planet, which is regrettable. A projected energy weapon, perhaps?"
Silas asked. "Something tells me you already know that. You knew these Daleks would come after you, didn't you?" Leica accused.
"It was a possibility. The device you took from me was theirs, you see. I stole it to take back to Eden, but I made a forced landing here. I am ill, after all."
"Don't hide behind your ailments. You led them here, to us. You knew we would be in danger, and yet you said nothing."
"I hoped I was wrong. I didn't want to worry you unduly,"
Silas lied. In truth, he had little regard for these pacifists. In his mind, you were either on the side of humanity or the aliens, and looking at this green imitation of a humanoid turned his stomach. The Leutians were human-like, but they lacked something that had enabled him to enter a fortress of Daleks and their general, and not even hesitate. Resolve. "You have the blood of Tycho and numerous innocent bystanders on your hands," Leica said with contempt. Silas raised his hands in mock horror.
"My hands are clean, Senator. I am merely a victim of circumstance, as are your people,"
Silas said. Leica was fuming. It was like he believed his own rhetoric. "You will be tried for your transgressions, human. Make no mistake," Leica started, but was interrupted as another Leutian entered urgently. "Senator, there's an urgent matter. You must come," the other Leutian said breathlessly. Leica frowned at Silas, and then turned and left with their colleague. Silas smirked and said to himself,
"Oh boy, it's right on schedule."
In the council chamber, the Leutian council was sitting nervously. Some were not actually physically there, but were using holographic technology. All around the chamber stood striking armoured figures, the Guardians. The Guardians were the exception to the rule, last of an old order, a remnant from the Civil War. They held long, dangerous weapons of Leutian tradition, and their chrome armour blazed from the overhead lights. Their helmeted heads had a single visor, but the eyes within were concealed in shadow. They all turned to Leica as she swept in. "What's happening?" she asked. Senator Torque, a thin-faced, severe-looking Leutian, who was one of the holograms, said flatly, "The intruders are here. Outside." He gestured to a holographic projection over the centre of the long council table. The holographic display showed Ryuk, with a Leutian next to him. Leica assumed he was a prisoner. Around them were 4 Daleks. "I thought as the new senator of this region you would want to negotiate with them," Torque said. Leica rubbed her head for a brief moment. Her head was beginning to hurt with the stress of all that was happening. She pushed a button on the table to activate the loudspeaker. "I am Senator Leica," she began, but was interrupted immediately by the winged general, who spoke in a commanding voice that echoed loudly around the chamber. "I don't care who you are. I am General Ryuk of the Dalek Empire. You will surrender the human intruder and the device he stole immediately. You have 10 rels to comply. 10. Leica looked around nervously at the other senators. 9. Torque turned to her coldly and said, "Good luck, Leica." 8. His hologram faded away, as did all the others, leaving 5 council members, including Laika and the Guardians. 7. Laika cleared her throat and spoke over Ryuk. We will not allow you entry. The human landed on Lutios and thus is under our care. You have no right to come here and demand him. If you wish to negotiate, we can discuss this peacefully. Ryuk stared upwards, even though he was a projection. It was like he was staring right at her. Time's up, he said simply. Outside the spire, Tepple turned to Ryuk. You mustn't hurt them, he pleaded. Ryuk looked exasperated. They sealed their own fate. He turned and saw Blaine approach. The special weapons Dalek reached them, and Ryuk said simply, Ah, Blaine, good timing. They won't lay down the welcome mat. Make one. Blaine turned to the base of the spire. Tepple looked at the Dalek in fear, his eyes naturally drawn to the giant gun.
I obey,
Blaine declared. No, you can't, Tepple urged, but it was too late. A bright burst of light erupted from the Dalek's cannon. Tepple put his hand over his face to shield his eyes from the glare of the blast. The discharge struck the spire, and the ground rumbled. When the light dissipated, there was a massive hole in the monument, with no rubble, just a clear, jagged entrance into the white lobby of the building. The very foundation of the spire seemed to shake for a moment with the aftershock. Leutian civilians ran from the lobby, scattering in numerous directions. Snidge turned instinctually and raised his gunstick. Hold your fire, Snidge, Ryuk said sharply. Snidge's eye stalk turned to Ryuk in disbelief. They were easy targets. What did their lives matter? They're no threat. Let them run, Ryuk ordered. Snidge turned his dome away, nearly protesting, but thinking better of it. Lex, Trip, Leutian, Tepple, with me. You 3 remain here. There may be some surprises in there. If anyone else tries to leave, exterminate them.
we obey,
The Daleks chorused. Ryuk, Lex, and Trip proceeded into the spire lobby. Tepple turned to Snidge, whose eye stalk was staring at him coldly. Then Tepple turned back to Ryuk as he walked away. I obey, he whispered as he ran after them and into the spire. As Ryuk entered the lobby, he admired the craftsmanship of the building. It was thin and spindly, but withstood the blast from a special weapons unit. Quite fortunate, really, as his mission would have been a great deal harder if he needed to dig the human and device out from a pile of rubble. Trip held his Perceptor arm forward.
Light wave trace detected leading this way,
he said. The humanoid general, Lex, and Trip proceeded through an adjoining corridor. Tepple walked warily behind, unsure of what he was doing there. Suddenly, 2 large guns deployed from the floor and began to fire deadly red energy beams at them all. Tepple thought it ironic that at this very moment his death may come not from a Dalek, but by weapons made by his own people.